Hey y'all, my name is Krissy and welcome back to my channel. So, first of all, I know it's been a while. Just a lot of transitioning in life or whatever. So I'm gonna try to be more consistent with this. And so the reason for this video today is because I am starting my Naca journey. And for those of you who don't know what Naca is, it is a home buying program. And so you go through the program and it aligns you with a Naca mortgage. And so what that is a mortgage that contains no down payment, no closing costs. You don't have to pay for PMI or private mortgage insurance. There are no fees associated with it, and the market or the rates that they offer are below market. So I am starting that journey. And so that is what this video is kind of like an introduction to my journey with them so far. And I will leave a link to their website below. And I'll just kind of talk through what I've gone through so far with them. So, first off, before you can participate in the program, you have to go to their initial home buyers workshop. And so I did mine in December of 2020, I believe. I have a book that I keep my little notes in, excuse my fingers. The master plan, because my master plan is to buy a house. So yeah, the first meeting I had was in December. And so they just kind of go through what their requirements are, and what they can offer you. So one thing about them is that they don't offer a mortgage based on like a credit score, so you don't have to have the perfect credit or anything like that, but they do it based on what you can afford. And so they look at your income, your expenses, and things like that to determine how much you can truly afford for your home payment. So through the workshop, they kind of go through that. And after the workshop, they give you an access code, and that is what you need to upload your files for your specific case. And that is how it's like your first way into the Naca program. So you have to sit through the whole presentation. I took notes, so I'll kind of just go through some of the notes. But in their workbook, you can find the workbook online, so you can read it ahead of time. That's something that I did. But you can read ahead of time. And so in their notebook, they have a monthly budget form, and that is something that is used, that you can use to help you determine what your expenses truly are and how much, house you can afford. And so the way that they determine that is they take your paycheck, depending on how often you get paid, or your salary, depending on how often you get paid. So if it's a set income like a salary, they'll divide it by 12 to get like your monthly income, and then they will take 31% of that, and that is how much, the most that you would be able to pay per month for your mortgage. And so once they do that, they then figure out your debt. So like if you have student loans, credit card, car notes, things like that, they deduct those monthly expenses from your housing ratio, which was at 31%, to try to figure out how much debt to income, or your debt to income ratio. So once they figure that out, if you have bills, it'll probably be lower than what your initial estimate would be, and that would be how much you could afford. So let's say, for example, after they did your income and then divided it, or subtracted 31%, divided by 31%, or whatever, and let's say you were left with $1,500, but then you have a credit card and a car note or something, and that was $500 a month, they would say that you can only afford a house that will be $1,000 a month. And that is up to you to determine if that is enough for where you live. I currently live in the DMV area, so that is not enough. So yeah. And as far as like student loans, they understand that we're in the deferment because of COVID and things like that, but they do still want a letter showing what your payments will be once it starts again. And that is something that you'll have to call and get that from your loan service provider. May take a couple of phone calls to get somebody to do the letter, to have all the information you need. But yeah. And so after that, they also come up with your mandatory required funds. I believe that's what it is, MRF. But that is the money that you'll need in like a savings account or on hand for your housing journey. So, like, let's say they'll say after they run through your numbers and things that you'll need an MRF of about $5,000. You'll have to have $5,000 saved up so that you're able to go through the home buying process. And those fees cover things like an inspection fee, taxes, insurance, reserves. So like you still want to have a month or two of mortgage, you know, just in case something happens. Your earnest money deposit if you have to put one down, and things like that. And so they go through all of those things and kind of tell you what kind of documents you'll need. You'll have to have pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, transcripts, 90 days worth of bank statements, credit card statements, and things like that. I've seen different videos about letters of explanation. I think one depends on the situation that you're in. So you can try to write them. You can try to write them. That is up to you. It could speed up or slow, speed up your process, but you really don't know what letters you may need until it's time. But yeah, so they kind of go over the home buyers like handbook, and that is what the initial workshop is for. So once you go through the workshop, then you'll be able to sign up for your first intake session, and you'll have to have all those documents uploaded into your web file before you go to your intake session. So like I said, I went to my initial workshop in December of 2020. Was it 2020 or was it 19? 2020. So I went through my initial workshop in 2020, December 2020. So my intake session, this was when they were still doing the Achieve the Dream event. And so I attended the one in February of 2021. That was this February. Yes, 2021. And so with the Achieve the Dream events, you could have had the opportunity to be approved in that day during that meeting if everything was in order. Everything was not in order with me. We had issues trying to figure out like my rent payments because they fluctuated. Because at the time I had roommates and we were also like having friends live, and so we were splitting rent, randomly, and things like that. And I didn't pay to our landlord because it wasn't a complex; it was a individual. So I wasn't paying from my account. I was transferring the money to my friend for them to make the payments for both of us. And so that didn't quite work for them. So if that is something that you are doing, they said to me that they would like for the rent payments to be made by check, or something like that directly to them if possible. So that is something to keep in mind. Your renting situation, if you're not in a lease yourself, it could kind of be a hiccup because they're going to take the money that you say that you pay, but they're going to also look for it in your bank statements. So if you say like my rent is $1,000 a month, but your bank statements are saying like $700 for rent this day, $800 for rent next month, or something like that, they're going to ask questions because your rent is not showing $1,000. You're not spending $1,000 on rent per month. You're really only spending $700. So that is something to keep in mind. And so if you have a different type of rental situation, you might have to write a letter for that. But yeah, so they'll also want to know like if your rent is less than what you would be paying for a mortgage or what you would want to pay for a mortgage. They want to know that you're saving that payment shop. They kind of go over that in the workshop, the initial workshop. So, and you also have to be able to document that. And then if you have like differences in pay and stuff like that, if your checks are, fluctuating and stuff, they probably want a letter for that. I don't know. But that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So in my situation, I did not get it approved during the Achieve the Dream event because like I said, my money was going to multiple accounts back and forth, and it was just a lot for them to kind of go through. And I didn't quite know where my money was going. I thought I did, but I did not. So For me, some of my next steps were, like I said, when they go through your credit report, they see different addresses, names, and things like that. So if you have differences or discrepancies on that, they'll want a letter. So for me, I need to write a letter for my addresses because something was wrong with my addresses. I don't know. And then like my name, it was spelled wrong on the credit report, so I had to write a letter saying this is how my name is spelled, and then upload like an ID or something. I'm from Florida, but I live in DMV area, so they want an explanation as to why I don't have a DMV license and things. Make sure you have all of your W-2s and things like that uploaded. And then they'll want your bosses, like your previous work experience, your bosses, supervisor, whoever, they'll need their emails and stuff to do your, what do you call it? To do your verification. And that goes for renting and all of that for the past 2 years. So, they also told me that I needed to stop Zelle and Cash App and all of that. So if you are Zelling and Cash Apping, don't do it because you'll have to explain those things, and it really affects like how your accounts look, because it begins to be a lot and you have to verify these things, and it's just harder than it needs to be. So do not Cash App and do not Zelle. So yeah. So that was what we talked about during my Achieve the Dream event. That was in February. Now, today it is October 27th. It has not taken me this long because I have been going or anything like that. So that was in February. My friend that I was living with at the time got into a medical program. So congrats, you know. Got into a medical program, and so we had to leave where we were living so that they could be closer to their campus, because it would have been about a 2-hour commute each way from where we were living. So we decided to part ways. We are still great friends and everything like that, but it was just for convenience. It was just too far for them. And so I ended up moving into the city. So that is what was happening with that. So now I am on a lease on my own, and that helped me. But because of that, I had an initial appointment scheduled for March, I believe, either March or May. No, May. I had an appointment scheduled for May, but I canceled it because, one, I'm moving. None of the things that I submitted beforehand applied, and I am also spending because I am moving. So that is what happened. But in the meantime, I looked up and researched different first-time homebuyer programs within the area for different cities, counties, and things like that, and attended some of their workshops to get their certificates, just in case, you know, so that I would already have it if I chose to use those, or if they allowed me to use those in combination to the Naca mortgage. But yeah, so I did that in the meantime and worked on kind of like my spending habits and things like that, and budgeting and blah, blah, blah. So I did all of that. And I had my second meeting with my real counselor last night. So was it last night? No, the night before last. The 25th. So I had my meeting with them the 25th. And it went pretty much how I expected it to go, because I already know that my spending is not quite where it needs to be. So it was very quick because the Achieve the Dream event took almost 3 hours. But my meeting with my counselor took 45 minutes, not even an hour. But she did do some of the reviewing and things like that beforehand. So when we got on the meeting, she was pretty aware of where I was at. And I luckily am not in a place where I have to do too much more of the legwork, because I've had since February to October, you know, this year to kind of like do things on my own, since I had an idea of what would be expected. So she looked at my income, which will probably have to be updated again. But she looked at my income, looked at my job history, rental history. She looked at the credit report that they pulled during my initial visit to kind of see like if I had any late payments or things like that, and I don't. It's only me. Right now I have my own apartment, so I'm the only one on the lease. And so it's clearly documented that I'm paying the rent every month. Since that was a thing that we couldn't quite get a handle on in the previous appointment. So we have that understood. My other expenses, I have a car note and a personal loan. I'm close to paying off my car. So by the time that we meet again, which will be in January, I should be at 10 payments or below. And so they won't factor that into my monthly expenses. So that will free up some more money to put into my mortgage, because I won't have the car note to take expenses away. So that is one thing we talked about. My minimum required funds, I already have it, so I just have to make sure that I don't spend it. I do have some money on my credit card. I only have one credit card, so I do have money on there, but I do not need to use it anymore. And I haven't been using it this past month, so as long as I keep on that and just keep paying it down, I'll be good with that. And then she said I needed to upload my transcript, my tax transcripts. I thought I did, but I did it for the year before. That doesn't apply, so I'll have to go do those, but that's easy. Just go to the tax website and download them and upload them onto your account. So as far as that, and then we talked about the way that I pay my bills, because my method was that I get paid in my checkings account, and then I have an automatic transfer on payday to my savings account where I deduct my bills automatically. So all of my bills are on auto pay. So I just move the money from each month to my savings, and then they take their bill money out of my savings each month, so that I don't really look at it. But that is also where I'm holding my minimum required funds. So she advised me to not do that anymore. So I've had to end the transfers from the checkings to the savings, so that all of my check stays in my checking, and I pay all of my bills out of my checking, and my savings is not touched. Because on their end, even though there is a set amount of minimum required funds in the account already, because I am putting money in and taking money out, it looks as if I'm not saving. So to stop all of that, don't put anything in here, don't take anything out, and just work out of my checking account only. So that will take more planning on my behalf. So I'm going to have to sit down with a budget again to kind of figure it out. And so that is the biggest thing that I need to do. So she said if I can do that, this is October, November, December, when we meet again in January, as long as I have stuck to the plan that we have established, which is to not take out of my savings anymore and to only pay out of my checkings and to upload those documents, I should be good to go to be pushed on to qualifications. So that is where we're at. For those of you who have 401ks, IRAs, and things like that, even if you don't want to use it to buy the home, you still need to upload that information into your web file, because it shows that you have positive assets, and I guess it looks better to the banks that you have them and can say, well, I have this amount of money if I ever need to go to it, even though I don't want to use it to buy the home. So that was something that she told me, because I almost didn't put it on there, because I'm like, I don't want to spend this. I don't want to take money out of this for this. So, but she said it doesn't matter. Even if you don't want to use it, still upload it, because they want to know that if push came to shove and you needed some extra money fast, you have access to X amount of dollars. So keep that in mind. Technically, it'll be a year, but I've only gone to 2 appointments. But some things that I can say is that I read that handbook back and forth multiple times from before I've gone to the initial meeting to now. I just randomly, if I have nothing to do, I will sit there and open the handbook and look and read it. So I was pretty clear on what I needed to submit and what work I needed to do on my end. Like I said, spending, I know that I spend money and I have to stop. I have stopped getting my nails done. To help with that, and just like I've already made the steps to figure out what expenses I can cut out for the time being, just so that I can get qualified and into a home. Up here in the DMV area, housing is not cheap, so I have to be able to get all that I can get qualified for, otherwise it will not work. Because housing up here is not cheap, and I don't want my commute to be 2 hours because I work in the city. I don't want to live, 2 hours away and then have to, I don't mind riding the train, but I don't want to ride the train for 3 hours or whatever the case may be. Right now, there's something wrong with the tracks, so it takes an hour to get home, and otherwise it would take 30 to 45 minutes, and it takes over an hour. So I can only imagine living an hour plus out. It would take forever. So I don't want to live too far, so I've kind of managed my expectations on what I'm able to buy. I know that people say don't go looking for homes until you're qualified, but I like to look because I like to see what I can get, what is a reasonable request for the amount of money that I will be able to spend. So I like to say, okay, if I want a townhome, a 3-bedroom townhome, what is the running price for that? And I'll look and see, okay, in this area, it may be, I don't know, $350. In this area, it might be $400. In this area, it might be $300. Like, I don't know. But I like to look to see the areas that they have, because I'm pretty open as far as, like, where I want to live. I know that I want to live in Maryland, and I know that I need to be near some sort of public transportation, whether that is a park and ride or a metro station or a MARC station. I just want to be near public transportation because I do not like driving up here, but I will not get rid of my car. So, those are things that I, have spent time thinking about so that I can be realistic in the goal of, or the price that I would want to spend on a home, because this is a home that I'm going to be living in for the foreseeable future. I don't know about no forever, but for a good 5, maybe 10 years, I know 5 for sure, maybe 10 years, I want it to be in a decent location because location is more important to me. I don't need a yard. I hate yards. Give me a little patch in the front, and that is it. So that is why a townhome works for me. But just being able to manage my expectations on what I can afford. I like to look at the houses anyway. I don't go tour the homes or anything because it's not really a point right now. But I do look on websites like Zillow and Realtor.com, Redfin, and things like that to be able to see what I can buy. So yeah, those are my next steps. Just continue to save and not charge anything, and upload a few missing documents, and build my savings. So hopefully in January I will be pushed to qualifications, and then that'd be that. It helped because my rent is pretty much the same as what my mortgage would be, or what I would be allowed to have as a mortgage. So I don't necessarily have to worry about payment shock, because that is confusing to me. For some reason, it is just so confusing to me. So I don't have to do it because I spend the same now in rent. She does suggest that I save a couple $100 more. We can see if that's possible. But I also keep in mind of my quality of life, and I am okay with the amount that I would be approved for right now. Sure, I can try to save that much, but if it is going to cut into my quality of life any more than it has, I do not want to do it. And I am just being honest with myself, and I feel like everybody needs to be honest with themselves. You know what you can and cannot deal with. I have been living this way for a while now, and I do not want to live this way forever. So, and Grace, I sound very dramatic, but there are things that I cut out that I don't want to cut out. So if it means that I have to continue to live this way in order to have, I don't know, a $400,000 home, I don't want a $400,000 home. I don't want to live like that. So I understand the purpose of the program and why they ask you to do these things, because that is what they want you to come to terms with. You say you want a $500,000 home, but you don't want to, make those sacrifices beforehand, or you started to make those sacrifices and you're willing to reel that back. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to not get my nails done. And that is just the reality of the situation. I don't want to. So I'm not looking that big. And you have to be honest with yourself about it. So, another thing that she said that I thought was interesting to note, and I'm drawing a blank. I remembered, but I think I lost it. Oh, yes. Because like I said, the rent that I pay. So when they take your rent into consideration, like let's say, I know up here, a lot of the apartments charge for parking. So like let's say your rent is $1,500, but they might charge $200 for rent. That is what you pay every month. You pay $1,700 a month, but they don't care that you pay for parking every month. They're literally only looking at your base rent. So that is something to keep in mind, because yes, you can show that your rent being taken out of your check is, I don't know, up here, $2,000. But if your base rent is only $1,500, they're only going to give you credit for $1,500. They don't care that you pay $2,000 per month. But now it makes me wonder if that extra money can be counted as like a payment shock type of thing, because I'm not using the money. I have no access to it, But that's something I would ask. But keep that in mind, because rent up here, you could easily be paying $2,000, $2,500 a month. But if you're based, that's after, parking and all of that. They don't count utilities, so, but I don't expect them to. They don't count utilities. So, like, for example, my apartment takes the base rent, water, and parking. They don't count the water or the parking. So, and it makes a difference, because like I said, up here, parking could easily be between $150 and $200 a month. They don't count that. So keep that in mind when you are telling them how much you pay in rent. They probably will clarify and ask, but just keep in mind that that's the number that they're looking at. I think those were the biggest takeaways that I got from there. And honestly, I felt very relieved and happy that the changes that I was making were the right ones and are getting me where I need to be. Because I wasn't sure. I was just kind of like, okay, I know I need to stop spending, but like, I want new shoes. So being able to tell myself, no, don't buy any new shoes, don't buy any clothes, even getting down to cutting into, like I said, not getting my nails done and things like that. What can I do at home? I have to do my hair anyway, but like things like that. Do I really need to buy a wig? No. Do I need, like, being honest with yourself and being disciplined is what you need in the process. And my counselor was telling me how some people say it takes a long time, and it can take a long time, but it is ultimately up to you for how long it takes. Like I said, when I went to the meetings, I had all of my documents uploaded. Every single account had, because I had multiple accounts, every single account was uploaded into the thing. And another thing, next meeting is in January. From now until then, like I said, I'm going to redo my budget and try to narrow it down some more and make some more sacrifices, because now it feels like I am in the home stretch. I only have 2 or 3 more months, so I can buckle down and do it. We're about to look at a no-spend November, so that is going to be that. I'll try to figure out what I can do as far as like holiday gifts and things like that, because I'm not going to be going anywhere, spending any money. So trying to figure out what I can do for that, so that it doesn't have to be dreadful. But yeah, this video is very long, and I didn't intend for it to be. So Thank you all for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye.